I'm Emma. Today I want to share the story of Jessica Martinez, which unfolds like this. Sister pawned my engagement ring. You'll never get married anyway. The insurance check arrived. What happened next transformed Jessica from a doormat into a woman who discovered her true worth, proving that sometimes the most painful betrayals lead to the most powerful transformations. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The pawn shop receipt was crumpled at the bottom of Jessica's purse, forgotten beneath grocery store receipts and business cards she had collected during her job search. It was Thursday afternoon in downtown Phoenix, and Jessica Martinez was sitting in the parking lot of yet another company that had politely declined her application for a marketing coordinator position. The Arizona sun beat down mercilessly on her 10-year-old Honda Civic, creating a suffocating heat that seemed to mirror the frustration building inside her chest. Jessica had been unemployed for 3 months since her previous employer, a small advertising agency, had laid off half their staff due to budget constraints. The job market in Phoenix was competitive, and despite her bachelor's degree in communications from Arizona State University and 4 years of relevant experience, she found herself constantly competing against candidates with more advanced degrees or specialized certifications that she could not afford to obtain. At 28 years old, Jessica lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in Tempe with her younger sister Carmen, who was supposed to be contributing to rent and utilities while she completed her associate degree at the local community college. Their arrangement had seemed logical when Jessica had invited Carmen to move in 18 months earlier. Carmen would save money on housing while finishing school, and Jessica would have help with household expenses during what she had expected to be a stable period in her career. The financial partnership between the sisters had never functioned as intended. Carmen consistently fell short on her share of expenses, usually offering elaborate explanations about unexpected school costs or temporary reductions in her work hours at the retail store where she was employed part-time. Jessica had covered the shortfalls without complaint, understanding that education required sacrifices, and believing that Carmen would reciprocate when circumstances improved. The pawnshop receipt that Jessica discovered in her purse that sweltering Thursday afternoon represented a betrayal so profound that it would fundamentally alter her relationship with her sister and her understanding of her own worth. The receipt was dated 3 days earlier and listed a detailed description of the item that had been sold. 14K white gold engagement ring, 1. 2-carat solitaire diamond, size 6, excellent condition. The sale price was listed as $850. Jessica's engagement ring had been given to her by her fiancé Michael Thompson 2 years earlier during a romantic weekend trip to Sedona. Michael had saved for 8 months to purchase the ring, which had cost him nearly $4,000. The ring represented not only his love and commitment, but also his sacrifices and careful financial planning to provide Jessica with something beautiful that symbolized their future together. The engagement had ended 6 months earlier, not due to lack of love, but because of irreconcilable differences about timing and life priorities. Michael had received a job offer in Seattle that represented a significant advancement in his engineering career, while Jessica was committed to remaining in Phoenix to support her family and build her own professional network. They had parted amicably, with mutual respect and genuine affection, agreeing that their different life trajectories made marriage impractical, despite their emotional connection. Jessica had kept the engagement ring because Michael had insisted she should retain it, explaining that he had purchased it specifically for her and that returning it would not change the financial investment he had already made. The ring had remained in her jewelry box as a reminder of a relationship that had been meaningful and positive, even though it had not led to marriage. She had never considered selling it because it represented memories she valued, and because she viewed it as a form of financial security that could be accessed only in extreme circumstances. The discovery that Carmen had stolen and sold the ring created a complex mixture of emotions that Jessica struggled to process. The immediate feeling was betrayal, not only because Carmen had taken something without permission, but because she had sold an item that held significant personal and financial value. The deeper emotional impact related to the violation of trust between sisters and the realization that Carmen viewed Jessica's possessions as available for her own use without consideration or consultation. Jessica's hands trembled as she examined the pawnshop receipt, noting that the transaction had occurred on a Tuesday afternoon, when Jessica had been attending a job interview across town. Carmen had obviously planned the theft carefully, waiting for an opportunity when Jessica would be absent for several hours and unable to discover the missing ring immediately. The premeditation involved in the theft made it feel more serious than an impulsive mistake driven by temporary financial pressure. The address of the pawnshop was located in a neighborhood that Jessica knew Carmen frequented for shopping and social activities. The fact that Carmen had chosen a location near her regular haunts suggested either a lack of awareness about the seriousness of her actions or a casual attitude toward the consequences of stealing from her sister. Either interpretation troubled Jessica deeply and forced her to reconsider her understanding of Carmen's character and moral compass. Jessica drove immediately to the pawnshop, hoping that she might be able to recover the ring by paying the amount that Carmen had received, plus whatever fees and interest the shop required. The pawnshop was located in a strip mall between a check cashing service and a discount cell phone store, occupying a narrow space with barred windows and security cameras that suggested a clientele accustomed to desperate circumstances and urgent financial needs. The shop's interior was cramped and dimly lit, with glass cases displaying an eclectic mixture of jewelry, electronics, musical instruments, and power tools that represented the abandoned dreams and financial emergencies of previous customers. The proprietor, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and calloused hands, listened to Jessica's explanation with the patient expression of someone who had heard countless similar stories of family betrayal and financial desperation. The proprietor confirmed that the ring described on Jessica's receipt had been sold to the shop by a young woman matching Carmen's description. However, he explained that the ring had already been resold to another customer who had purchased it the previous day. The shop's policy required holding pawned items for 30 days before offering them for sale. But engagement rings were exceptions, because they typically sold quickly and generated higher profit margins than most other jewelry items. The proprietor offered to provide contact information for the customer who had purchased Jessica's ring. But he warned that there was no guarantee the buyer would be willing to resell it, and if they were interested in selling, they would likely demand a price significantly higher than what Carmen had received from the pawn shop. The ring's original retail value of nearly $4,000 meant that even at the discounted pawn shop price, it represented a valuable item that the new owner might be reluctant to part with at any reasonable cost. Jessica left the pawn shop feeling defeated and emotionally drained, understanding that recovering her engagement ring would be either impossible or prohibitively expensive. The financial loss was significant, representing money that could have covered 2 months of rent or provided resources for professional development courses that might improve her job search prospects. However, the emotional impact of Carmen's betrayal was far more devastating than the financial consequences. The drive back to their shared apartment provided Jessica with time to consider how she would confront Carmen about the theft and what consequences would be appropriate for such a serious violation of trust. Jessica had always been the responsible sister, the one who made sacrifices and compromises to maintain family harmony and provide stability for everyone around her. Carmen had grown accustomed to Jessica's accommodating nature and may not have anticipated that stealing and selling the engagement ring would provoke a strong response. Jessica's approach to family relationships had been shaped by their parents, emphasis on loyalty and mutual support, values that had been reinforced throughout their childhood by stories of previous generations who had survived economic hardship and social challenges through collective cooperation and shared sacrifice. Jessica had internalized these lessons so thoroughly that she often prioritized other people's needs above her own comfort and financial security. The pattern of Jessica's accommodation to Carmen's irresponsibility had developed gradually over many years, beginning in childhood when their parents had assigned Jessica the role of looking after her younger sister and helping her succeed academically and socially. Jessica had excelled in this supportive role, taking pride in Carmen's achievements and feeling responsible for protecting her from consequences that might discourage her from pursuing her goals. As adults, the dynamic between the sisters had continued along similar lines, with Jessica providing financial support, emotional encouragement, and practical assistance whenever Carmen encountered difficulties or challenges. Jessica had paid for Carmen's textbooks, covered her share of utilities when she was short on funds, and provided transportation when Carmen's car required repairs that she could not afford. The pattern of Jessica's giving and Carmen's taking had become so established that both sisters viewed it as normal and expected. The theft of the engagement ring represented an escalation in Carmen's willingness to take advantage of Jessica's generosity and trust. Previous instances of financial irresponsibility had involved Carmen failing to contribute her agreed-upon share of household expenses, or borrowing small amounts of money that she repaid inconsistently. The ring theft was different because it involved taking something without permission, something that belonged specifically to Jessica, rather than being a shared household resource. Jessica's unemployment had created additional financial pressure that made Carmen's theft particularly painful and poorly timed. Without steady income, Jessica had been carefully managing her savings to cover essential expenses while searching for new employment. The $850 that Carmen had received for the ring would have provided Jessica with nearly 2 months of breathing room to continue her job search without desperate urgency or consideration of accepting positions that were significantly below her qualifications and career goals. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The emotional significance of the engagement ring made Carmen's theft feel like a particularly cruel form of betrayal. Jessica had shared the story of Michael's proposal with Carmen, describing the careful planning and financial sacrifice that Michael had made to purchase the ring and the romantic setting in Sedona where he had presented it to her. Carmen was aware that the ring represented meaningful memories from a relationship that had been important to Jessica, even though it had not resulted in marriage. The fact that Carmen had chosen to steal and sell an item with such personal significance suggested either a complete disregard for Jessica's feelings or a level of financial desperation that had overcome her moral inhibitions. Either explanation forced Jessica to reconsider her understanding of her sister's character and the nature of their relationship. The theft indicated that Carmen viewed Jessica's possessions as extensions of her own resources, available for her use whenever her immediate needs or desires required additional funding. As Jessica parked in front of their apartment complex, she noticed Carmen's car in its designated space, indicating that her sister was home and available for the confrontation that would determine the future of their relationship. Jessica had never been comfortable with conflict or confrontation, preferring to resolve disagreements through discussion and compromise, rather than demands and ultimatums. However, the severity of Carmen's betrayal seemed to require a more direct response than Jessica's typical diplomatic approach. The apartment they shared was located in a complex that catered primarily to young professionals and college students, offering affordable rent and basic amenities without luxury features or extensive common areas. Jessica had chosen the location based on its proximity to the downtown business district where many of her job prospects were located, and its reasonable cost relative to comparable housing options in the Phoenix metropolitan area. The 2-bedroom apartment was furnished modestly with items that Jessica had purchased over several years of independent living, supplemented by hand-me-down furniture from their parents, and occasional purchases from thrift stores and garage sales. Jessica took pride in maintaining a clean and organized living environment that reflected her responsible approach to household management and her respect for the space that provided her with stability and security. Carmen's presence in the apartment was evident through the casual disorder that typically accompanied her daily routine. Textbooks and assignments were scattered across the dining table, dishes from her breakfast remained unwashed in the sink, and her clothes were draped over furniture rather than properly stored in her bedroom. The contrast between Jessica's organized approach to shared spaces and Carmen's more casual attitude toward household maintenance had been a source of minor tension throughout their cohabitation arrangement. Jessica entered the apartment and found Carmen sitting on the couch, watching television while painting her fingernails in a bright coral color that matched her cheerful disposition and apparent lack of concern about any consequences for her recent actions. Carmen looked up when Jessica entered, offering the same friendly smile that she had displayed throughout their childhood when she had successfully avoided punishment for various minor transgressions and rule violations. The casual normalcy of Carmen's demeanor struck Jessica as particularly insulting given the magnitude of what she had done. Carmen appeared completely comfortable and unconcerned, suggesting that she either did not understand the seriousness of stealing and selling Jessica's engagement ring, or that she was confident Jessica would not respond with meaningful consequences. Either interpretation reinforced Jessica's growing realization that their relationship dynamic required fundamental changes if it was to continue. Jessica held up the pawnshop receipt, watching Carmen's expression carefully for signs of recognition or remorse. Carmen's face displayed a brief moment of surprise, followed quickly by defiance, as if she had been caught in a minor rule violation rather than a serious theft that had cost Jessica both money and irreplaceable personal property. The lack of shame or apology in Carmen's initial response confirmed Jessica's suspicion that her sister viewed the theft as justified or acceptable under their current circumstances. "We need to talk about this," Jessica said, holding the receipt where Carmen could see it clearly. Carmen set down her nail polish and turned to face Jessica with an expression that combined mild irritation with practiced innocence. "Oh, you found that," she said, as if the receipt were an oversight rather than evidence of theft. "I was going to tell you about it." The casualness of Carmen's response shocked Jessica more than the initial discovery of the theft itself. Carmen's tone suggested that selling Jessica's engagement ring had been a minor decision that merited brief mention rather than serious discussion or advance permission. The lack of recognition for the severity of her actions indicated that Carmen fundamentally misunderstood the nature of their relationship and the boundaries that should govern their shared living arrangement. "You stole my engagement ring and sold it without asking me," Jessica said, working to keep her voice steady despite the anger and hurt that were building inside her chest. "That ring was worth $4,000, and it meant something important to me." Carmen rolled her eyes in the dismissive manner that she had perfected during their teenage years, when their parents had attempted to hold her accountable for various irresponsible behaviors. "Jessica, you're being dramatic," she replied. "You never wear that ring anymore, and you're not even engaged to Michael. I needed the money for school expenses, and you've been so stressed about money lately that I didn't want to bother you." The audacity of Carmen's justification left Jessica momentarily speechless. Carmen had reframed her theft as a considerate gesture designed to spare Jessica from financial stress, while simultaneously dismissing the personal and monetary value of the stolen property. The explanation revealed a level of self-serving rationalization that Jessica had not previously recognized in her sister's character. "Carmen, that ring belonged to me," Jessica said, her voice growing stronger with each word. "It doesn't matter whether I wear it or whether I'm still engaged. You had no right to take it, and you certainly had no right to sell it. $850 doesn't even cover a quarter of what that ring was worth." Carmen stood up from the couch, crossing her arms in the defensive posture that she had always adopted when confronted with evidence of wrongdoing. "Well, you'll never get married anyway," she said, her voice taking on the cruel edge that emerged when she felt cornered or criticized. "You're 28 years old, you can't keep a job, and you let the only decent guy who ever wanted to marry you move to Seattle without you. At least I put the ring to good use instead of letting it sit in your jewelry box collecting dust." The cruelty of Carmen's words struck Jessica like a physical blow, confirming her worst fears about her sister's true opinion of her life and prospects. Carmen had not only stolen from her but had used her most vulnerable insecurities as weapons to justify her actions and deflect responsibility for her betrayal. The combination of theft and emotional cruelty revealed aspects of Carmen's character that Jessica had never fully recognized or acknowledged. Carmen's attack had targeted Jessica's deepest anxieties about her romantic prospects and professional stability, issues that Jessica had confided in her sister during moments of vulnerability and self-doubt. The fact that Carmen was willing to weaponize those intimate concerns in defense of her theft demonstrated a level of callousness that shattered Jessica's understanding of their relationship and her sister's capacity for empathy and loyalty. The apartment fell silent except for the sound of the television continuing to play in the background, providing a surreal soundtrack to the confrontation that was reshaping Jessica's understanding of her family relationships and her own worth. The realization that Carmen viewed her with contempt rather than affection forced Jessica to reconsider every interaction they had shared and every sacrifice she had made on Carmen's behalf. Standing in her own living room, holding evidence of her sister's betrayal while absorbing the cruel assessment of her life prospects, Jessica experienced a moment of clarity that would fundamentally alter the trajectory of her future. The woman who had always prioritized others' needs above her own comfort was beginning to understand that her generosity and accommodation had enabled destructive behaviors rather than supporting positive growth and mutual respect. The transformation that would ultimately vindicate Jessica's worth and prove Carmen's cruel prediction completely wrong was beginning in that moment of profound disillusionment and emotional pain. The insurance check that would soon arrive, the opportunities that would emerge, and the strength that Jessica would discover within herself were all still unknown, but the foundation for her remarkable transformation was being established through the painful recognition that she deserved better treatment than she had been accepting from those closest to her. The engagement ring that Carmen had pawned would become the catalyst for Jessica's journey towards self-respect and genuine prosperity, proving that sometimes the most devastating betrayals create opportunities for the most empowering personal growth. The cruel words about never getting married would ultimately serve as motivation for Jessica to build a life so fulfilling and successful that marriage would become a choice rather than a desperate need for validation and security. What Jessica could not yet know as she stood in her apartment, processing the full impact of Carmen's betrayal and cruelty, was that the worst moment of her relationship with her sister was about to become the starting point for the best chapter of her entire life. The silence that followed Carmen's cruel words stretched across the apartment like a physical presence, broken only by the distant hum of traffic on the street below and the artificial cheerfulness of a commercial playing on the television. Jessica stood motionless in her living room, the pawn shop receipt still clutched in her trembling hand, as the full magnitude of her sister's betrayal and contempt settled into her consciousness, like sediment in still water. The apartment that had once represented a symbol of sisterly cooperation and shared responsibility now felt contaminated by the revelation of Carmen's true feelings and her willingness to steal from the person who had provided her with stability and support. Every piece of furniture that Jessica had carefully selected and purchased, every household item she had chosen to create a comfortable living environment, every sacrifice she had made to accommodate Carmen's presence, now seemed tainted by the knowledge that her generosity had been viewed as weakness rather than love. Jessica's mind began to process the pattern of accommodation and sacrifice that had characterized her relationship with Carmen throughout their adult lives, a pattern that had developed so gradually that Jessica had never recognized its destructive nature or questioned whether it represented genuine family loyalty or enabling dysfunction. The engagement ring theft was not an isolated incident of poor judgment, but rather the culmination of years of increasingly brazen exploitation that had escalated because Jessica had never established meaningful consequences for Carmen's irresponsible behavior. The history of Jessica's relationship with Carmen extended back to their childhood in Tucson, where they had been raised by parents who worked multiple jobs to provide basic stability for their family, while struggling with their own financial limitations and personal challenges. Their father, Roberto Martinez, had worked as a maintenance supervisor at a large manufacturing facility during the day and performed handyman services on evenings and weekends to supplement his income. Their mother, Maria Martinez, had juggled part-time employment at a local department store with full-time responsibilities for household management and childcare. The economic pressures that shaped the Martinez family dynamics had created an environment where Jessica, as the older and more academically capable sister, had been assigned responsibilities for Carmen's well-being and success that extended far beyond normal sibling relationships. Jessica had been expected to help Carmen with her homework, ensure that she completed her household chores, and serve as a positive role model who could guide Carmen away from the social and academic pitfalls that threatened many teenagers in their neighborhood. Jessica had embraced these responsibilities with the conscientious dedication that would later characterize her professional work and personal relationships. She had spent countless hours tutoring Carmen in mathematics and science, subjects that came naturally to Jessica but required extensive explanation and repetition for Carmen to understand. She had helped Carmen prepare for standardized tests, complete college applications, and navigate the bureaucratic complexities of financial aid applications and enrollment procedures. The pattern of Jessica's academic and personal success contrasted sharply with Carmen's more casual approach to education and responsibility. While Jessica had maintained a grade point average that qualified her for academic scholarships and honor society membership, Carmen had struggled to achieve the minimum requirements for high school graduation and had required extensive remedial coursework to qualify for admission to community college programs. The differences between the sisters had been evident not only in their academic performance but also in their approaches to employment and financial responsibility. Jessica had worked part-time throughout high school and college, using her earnings to cover personal expenses and contribute to family costs when her parents faced unexpected financial challenges. Carmen had avoided employment whenever possible, preferring to focus on social activities and personal interests while relying on family support for her financial needs. Despite these differences, Jessica had never questioned the expectation that she would continue to support and accommodate Carmen's needs as they transitioned into adult independence. The family's emphasis on loyalty and mutual assistance had created a framework where Jessica's success was viewed as a resource that should benefit everyone, rather than a personal achievement that belonged primarily to the individual who had earned it through hard work and sacrifice. Jessica's decision to invite Carmen to share her apartment had been motivated by genuine desire to help her sister complete her education without the financial stress that had complicated their own family's circumstances during their childhood. Jessica had remembered the anxiety and uncertainty that financial instability had created in their household, and she had wanted to provide Carmen with the security and support that would enable her to focus on her studies without worrying about basic survival needs. The arrangement had initially appeared successful, with Carmen expressing gratitude for Jessica's generosity and making promises about contributing to household expenses and maintaining shared spaces in ways that would demonstrate respect for Jessica's hospitality. Carmen had presented detailed budgets showing how her part-time income would cover her share of rent and utilities, and she had volunteered to take responsibility for specific household tasks that would reduce Jessica's domestic workload. However, the reality of their cohabitation had diverged significantly from Carmen's initial promises and Jessica's optimistic expectations. Carmen's financial contributions had been inconsistent and inadequate, typically falling short by amounts that seemed small individually but accumulated into substantial sums over time. Her household responsibilities had been performed sporadically and incompletely, leaving Jessica to maintain standards of cleanliness and organization that she considered necessary for a comfortable living environment. The pattern of Carmen's unreliability had established itself so gradually that Jessica had adapted to it without recognizing how significantly it was affecting her own financial stability and emotional well-being. Each instance of Carmen's failure to meet her commitments had been accompanied by explanations that seemed reasonable and promises of improvement that convinced Jessica to continue accommodating her sister's limitations rather than enforcing consequences that might motivate behavioral changes. Jessica's unemployment had created additional strain on their household finances that made Carmen's irresponsibility particularly problematic and poorly timed. Without her regular income from the advertising agency, Jessica had been forced to rely on unemployment benefits and her modest savings to cover all household expenses, while searching for new employment opportunities in an increasingly competitive job market. The job search process had proven more challenging than Jessica had anticipated, despite her education and relevant work experience. Many positions required specialized skills or certifications that Jessica did not possess, while others offered salaries that were insufficient to maintain her current living expenses. The advertising industry in Phoenix was relatively small, and Jessica's former employer's financial difficulties had been part of broader economic challenges affecting many companies in the region. Jessica had responded to her unemployment with the same systematic approach that characterized her professional work, creating detailed schedules for job search activities, researching potential employers thoroughly, and preparing customized application materials for each position she pursued. She had attended networking events, participated in professional development workshops, and considered freelance opportunities that might provide interim income while she continued seeking full-time employment. The financial calculations that governed Jessica's daily life during her unemployment had required careful budgeting and constant monitoring of expenses to ensure that her savings would last through what she hoped would be a temporary period of reduced income. Every dollar spent on gasoline for job interviews, professional clothing for meetings, or materials for portfolio presentations had to be weighed against the need to maintain essential expenses like rent, utilities, and groceries. Carmen's failure to contribute her agreed-upon share of household expenses during this critical period had created additional financial pressure that Jessica had absorbed without complaint. Understanding that Carmen's part-time income was limited, and not wanting to add stress to her sister's academic responsibilities, Jessica had covered Carmen's shortfalls by reducing her own personal expenses and dipping into savings that were intended to provide security during her job search. The theft of the engagement ring represented a violation that extended beyond simple financial loss to encompass betrayal of trust and disregard for Jessica's emotional well-being during a particularly vulnerable period in her life. Carmen had chosen to steal and sell an item that held both monetary and sentimental value at a time when Jessica was already facing significant financial stress and uncertainty about her professional future. The $850 that Carmen had received from the pawn shop would have provided Jessica with nearly 2 months of breathing room in her household budget, allowing her to continue her job search without the desperate urgency that had begun to affect her decision-making and confidence during interviews. The money could have covered rent and utilities, while Jessica focused on finding employment that matched her qualifications and career goals, rather than accepting positions that represented significant compromises in salary or professional development. The personal significance of the engagement ring made Carmen's theft particularly cruel and psychologically damaging. The ring had represented Michael's love and commitment during a relationship that had been meaningful and positive, even though it had not resulted in marriage. Jessica had kept the ring as a reminder of her capacity to inspire genuine affection, and as evidence that she was capable of forming serious romantic relationships with quality partners. Michael Thompson had been Jessica's most significant romantic relationship, a partnership that had developed over 2 years of shared interests, mutual respect, and genuine compatibility. Michael was an environmental engineer who had approached their relationship with the same thoughtfulness and integrity that he brought to his professional responsibilities. He had been supportive of Jessica's career ambitions, encouraging of her personal growth, and respectful of her family obligations even when they created scheduling conflicts or financial limitations. The decision to end their engagement had been reached through extensive discussion and careful consideration of their different priorities and life trajectories. Michael's job opportunity in Seattle had represented a significant advancement in his specialized field of water resource management, while Jessica's commitment to remaining in Phoenix had been based on her responsibility to support her family and her belief that her own career prospects were better in a market where she had established professional connections. The breakup had been amicable and mature, characterized by mutual understanding and respect for each other's choices rather than anger or resentment. Michael had insisted that Jessica keep the engagement ring because he had purchased it specifically for her, and because returning it would not change the financial investment he had already made. His generosity in allowing her to retain the ring had been consistent with his character throughout their relationship. Jessica's decision to keep the ring had been based on practical considerations as well as emotional attachment. The ring represented a form of financial security that could be accessed in extreme circumstances, while also serving as a tangible reminder of her capacity to inspire love and commitment from a partner who possessed the qualities she valued most in romantic relationships. Carmen's casual dismissal of the ring's significance and her cruel prediction about Jessica's romantic future revealed a level of contempt and callousness that shattered Jessica's understanding of their sisterly relationship. The theft had been bad enough, but Carmen's willingness to attack Jessica's most vulnerable insecurities in defense of her actions demonstrated a fundamental lack of empathy and loyalty that Jessica had never previously recognized. The apartment's atmosphere had become poisonous in the minutes following Carmen's cruel pronouncement, filled with the toxic energy that accompanies the destruction of illusions and the forced recognition of painful truths. Jessica realized that the sister she had been supporting and protecting for years viewed her with contempt rather than gratitude, seeing her as a failure rather than a benefactor. Standing in her living room, still holding the pawn shop receipt that documented Carmen's betrayal, Jessica began to understand that the dynamic between them had been fundamentally unhealthy and unsustainable. Her generosity and accommodation had not fostered appreciation or reciprocal care, but had instead enabled increasingly exploitative behavior that culminated in theft and emotional cruelty. The recognition that she had been enabling rather than helping Carmen created a complex mixture of emotions that Jessica struggled to process. She felt anger at Carmen's betrayal and cruelty, hurt by the realization that her sacrifices had been taken for granted, and shame about her own role in creating conditions that made such exploitation possible. However, beneath these painful emotions, Jessica also began to experience something that she had not felt in years: clarity about her own worth and determination to demand better treatment from those around her. The shock of Carmen's betrayal had stripped away the illusions and rationalizations that had allowed Jessica to accept disrespectful treatment in the name of family loyalty and sisterly love. The transformation that would ultimately vindicate Jessica's worth and prove Carmen's predictions completely wrong was beginning to take shape in that moment of profound disillusionment. The insurance check that would soon change Jessica's circumstances, the opportunities that would emerge from her newfound clarity about boundaries and self-respect, and the success that would demonstrate her true capabilities, were still unknown to her in that painful moment. What Jessica was beginning to understand, as she stood surrounded by the evidence of Carmen's betrayal and the echo of her cruel words, was that she had been accepting treatment that she did not deserve and enabling behavior that was destructive to both sisters. The engagement ring theft had revealed the true nature of their relationship and forced Jessica to confront the reality that love and loyalty should be reciprocal rather than one-sided. The foundation for Jessica's remarkable transformation was being established through the painful recognition that she deserved respect, appreciation, and genuine partnership in her relationships. The woman who had always prioritized others' needs was beginning to understand that self-respect and appropriate boundaries were not selfish but necessary for healthy relationships and personal fulfillment. As Jessica looked around the apartment that represented years of her hard work and sacrifice, she began to envision a future where her generosity would be appreciated rather than exploited, where her success would benefit herself as well as others, and where her worth would be recognized and celebrated rather than dismissed and attacked. The cruel words that Carmen had spoken in defense of her theft would ultimately serve as the catalyst for Jessica's journey toward a life so successful and fulfilling that marriage would become a choice made from strength, rather than a desperate need for validation. The engagement ring that had been stolen and sold would be replaced by opportunities and achievements that Carmen could never have imagined when she dismissed Jessica's prospects with such contempt and cruelty. The transformation was beginning, though Jessica could not yet see the full scope of what lay ahead. The insurance check, the opportunities, the vindication, and the profound personal growth were all still approaching, but the foundation was being laid in this moment of pain and clarity that would ultimately become the cornerstone of Jessica's most successful and empowering chapter. The morning after her confrontation with Carmen began with the familiar sound of the alarm clock at 6:30, but everything else about Jessica's routine felt fundamentally different. The apartment that had once represented a shared living space now felt like a battlefield, where she had finally recognized the true nature of the conflict that had been waging beneath the surface of their sisterly relationship for years. Carmen had left early for her community college classes, avoiding any further discussion about the stolen engagement ring or the cruel words she had spoken in its defense. Jessica sat at her small kitchen table with a cup of coffee that had grown cold while she stared at the pawnshop receipt, which had become a tangible symbol of her need to fundamentally restructure her approach to relationships and personal boundaries. The $850 that Carmen had received for the ring represented more than financial theft. It embodied years of accumulated disrespect and exploitation that Jessica had enabled through her willingness to prioritize harmony over justice. The systematic approach that Jessica had always applied to her professional responsibilities and academic pursuits would now be directed toward the most important project of her life, transforming herself from a person who accepted poor treatment into someone who commanded respect and reciprocity. The discipline and strategic thinking that had enabled her to excel in her marketing career would be channeled into redesigning her personal life and establishing standards that reflected her true worth rather than her accommodating nature. Jessica's unemployment, which had initially seemed like a devastating setback in her career trajectory, was beginning to reveal itself as an unexpected opportunity for comprehensive self-examination and personal development. Without the daily demands of office responsibilities and workplace interactions, she possessed the time and mental space necessary to analyze the patterns that had shaped her relationships, and to develop strategies for creating more balanced and mutually beneficial dynamics with the people in her life. The first step in Jessica's transformation involved creating a detailed assessment of her financial situation and establishing a realistic timeline for achieving independence from the toxic dynamic that had characterized her relationship with Carmen. She opened her laptop and created a spreadsheet that documented every aspect of her current expenses, savings, and potential income sources, applying the same analytical rigor that she had used in developing marketing campaigns and budget projections for her previous employer. The financial analysis revealed that Jessica had been subsidizing Carmen's lifestyle to a much greater extent than she had previously realized. Beyond Carmen's consistent failure to contribute her agreed-upon share of rent and utilities, there had been numerous instances of additional financial support that Jessica had provided without maintaining proper records or establishing clear expectations for repayment. The cumulative impact of this financial drain had significantly compromised Jessica's ability to build savings and invest in her own professional development during a critical period in her career. The spreadsheet also revealed that Jessica's unemployment benefits, combined with careful expense management, would provide sufficient resources to maintain her current living situation for approximately 4 more months, without requiring any financial contribution from Carmen. This timeline created a framework for making strategic decisions about her living arrangements and establishing consequences for Carmen's behavior that extended beyond verbal confrontations or emotional appeals. Jessica's approach to her job search had been methodical and professional, but she recognized that her emotional state and confidence levels had been compromised by the ongoing stress of supporting Carmen and managing their dysfunctional household dynamic. The theft of her engagement ring had clarified the extent to which her personal relationships were affecting her professional performance and limiting her ability to present herself as the confident and capable marketing professional that employers were seeking. The marketing industry demanded professionals who could demonstrate strategic thinking, creative problem-solving abilities, and strong communication skills, all areas where Jessica possessed genuine expertise and natural talent. However, the emotional exhaustion that resulted from constantly managing Carmen's crises and compensating for her irresponsibility had diminished Jessica's ability to showcase these strengths effectively during interviews and networking opportunities. Jessica decided to implement a comprehensive personal development program that would address both the practical aspects of her job search and the underlying confidence issues that had been created by years of accepting disrespectful treatment from her sister. She researched professional development resources that could enhance her marketing skills, while also exploring personal growth materials that addressed boundary setting, self-advocacy, and relationship dynamics. The local public library became Jessica's primary resource for accessing books, online courses, and professional development materials, without straining her limited budget. She established a daily routine that included several hours of focused study on marketing trends and emerging technologies, combined with reading about psychology and personal development topics that were relevant to her current challenges. The library's quiet environment provided Jessica with a sanctuary where she could focus on her goals without the distracting and demoralizing presence of Carmen's casual disregard for responsibility and respect. The professional atmosphere and the presence of other people who were pursuing educational and career development goals created a supportive context that reinforced Jessica's commitment to improving her circumstances through dedicated effort and strategic planning. Jessica's research into current marketing trends revealed significant opportunities in digital marketing and social media strategy, areas where many traditional marketing professionals lacked current expertise, and where demand for skilled practitioners was growing rapidly. She discovered that several online certification programs offered credentials that could distinguish her from other job candidates, while demonstrating her commitment to staying current with industry developments. The investment in professional certifications would require careful budgeting, but Jessica recognized that enhancing her qualifications could significantly improve her employment prospects and potentially lead to positions with higher salaries that would provide greater financial stability and independence. She developed a detailed plan for completing 3 certification programs over the following 2 months, scheduling her study time to maximize learning efficiency while maintaining momentum in her job search activities. The personal development materials that Jessica studied addressed topics that were directly relevant to her current situation, including setting appropriate boundaries with family members, recognizing and interrupting patterns of enabling behavior, and developing the self-confidence necessary to demand respectful treatment from others. She discovered that her experiences with Carmen were consistent with well-documented psychological patterns that affected many people who had been assigned caretaking roles within their families. The reading provided Jessica with a vocabulary and framework for understanding the dynamics that had shaped her relationship with Carmen, helping her recognize that her accommodating behavior had been learned rather than innate and could be modified through conscious effort and practice. The realization that she was not uniquely weak or flawed, but rather had developed coping strategies that were common among people with similar family backgrounds, provided significant relief from the self-criticism and shame that had been undermining her confidence. Jessica began keeping a daily journal where she documented her thoughts, feelings, and observations about her personal development process and her evolving understanding of healthy relationship dynamics. The writing exercise helped her process the complex emotions that accompanied her recognition of how significantly she had been compromising her own well-being to maintain peace with Carmen. The journal also served as a tool for tracking her progress toward specific goals and maintaining accountability for the commitments she made to herself regarding boundary setting and self-advocacy. She recorded instances where she successfully asserted her needs or refused unreasonable requests, as well as situations where she reverted to old patterns of accommodation and the factors that influenced those choices. The daily routine that Jessica established during this period of intensive personal development created structure and purpose that helped counteract the discouragement and uncertainty that had been affecting her emotional state since losing her job. She woke each morning with a clear schedule of productive activities that included job search tasks, professional development study, personal growth reading, and physical exercise that supported her overall well-being and stress management. The physical exercise component of Jessica's routine had been neglected during the stressful months of unemployment and living with Carmen's dysfunction, but she recognized that maintaining her physical health was essential for sustaining the energy and confidence required for her transformation process. She began taking daily walks through the neighborhood parks, using the time for reflection and planning while also benefiting from the mood-enhancing effects of regular physical activity. The walks provided Jessica with opportunities to practice visualization techniques that she had learned from her personal development reading, imagining herself succeeding in job interviews, establishing healthy boundaries with family members, and building romantic relationships characterized by mutual respect and genuine partnership. The visualization exercises helped her develop confidence in her ability to create the life she desired, while also clarifying her priorities and values. Jessica's apartment, which had felt contaminated by Carmen's presence and betrayal, began to transform into a supportive environment for her personal and professional development. She rearranged the furniture to create a dedicated workspace where she could focus on her studies and job search activities, without distractions or reminders of the dysfunction that had previously dominated her home life. The workspace included a bulletin board where Jessica posted her goals, certification timelines, and inspirational quotes that reinforced her commitment to demanding better treatment from herself and others. She also displayed a photograph of herself receiving her college diploma, a reminder of her academic achievements and her capacity for succeeding in challenging endeavors when she applied focused effort and strategic thinking. The transformation of her living space reflected Jessica's growing understanding that she deserved to live in an environment that supported her goals and well-being, rather than constantly accommodating someone else's chaos and irresponsibility. The physical changes in her apartment paralleled the internal changes that were occurring, as she developed stronger boundaries and clearer expectations for how she wanted to be treated by the people in her life. Jessica's research into apartment leasing options and rental costs revealed that she could afford to live independently in a smaller space, particularly if she found employment at a salary level that reflected her qualifications and experience. The prospect of living alone initially seemed intimidating, but it also represented freedom from the constant stress and resentment that had characterized her experience of sharing space with Carmen. The possibility of independent living created additional motivation for Jessica to succeed in her job search and to pursue opportunities that offered not only adequate compensation, but also potential for professional growth and advancement. She began targeting positions with companies that demonstrated commitment to employee development and career progression, recognizing that her long-term financial security would depend on building a sustainable career trajectory rather than simply finding immediate employment. The networking activities that Jessica had initially approached with reluctance and anxiety became more productive as her confidence improved and her understanding of professional relationship building became more sophisticated. She joined professional associations for marketing professionals and began attending monthly meetings where she could connect with industry colleagues and learn about emerging trends and opportunities. The networking events provided Jessica with opportunities to practice the communication and interpersonal skills that she had been developing through her personal growth work, allowing her to present herself with greater confidence and authenticity than had been possible when she was constantly preoccupied with managing Carmen's crises and emotional volatility. The positive responses she received from other professionals confirmed that her marketing expertise was valuable, and that her previous difficulties in securing employment had been influenced by her compromised emotional state rather than deficiencies in her professional qualifications. Jessica's online presence, including her LinkedIn profile and professional portfolio website, received comprehensive updates that reflected her enhanced qualifications and clearer understanding of her professional value proposition. She crafted compelling descriptions of her achievements and capabilities that demonstrated confidence and strategic thinking, moving away from the modest and self-deprecating language that had previously characterized her professional communications. The process of articulating her professional strengths and accomplishments helped Jessica recognize the extent to which she had been undervaluing her contributions and accepting less recognition and compensation than her work merited. The pattern of accepting insufficient appreciation in her professional life paralleled the dynamic that had characterized her relationship with Carmen, suggesting that her transformation would need to address both personal and professional relationship patterns. As Jessica's confidence and clarity about her worth continued to develop, she began to experience a fundamental shift in how she approached all aspects of her life. The woman who had previously prioritized avoiding conflict and maintaining harmony was beginning to understand that authentic relationships and professional success required the courage to advocate for her needs and maintain standards that reflected her true value. The daily rituals of study, exercise, and reflection had created a foundation of self-discipline and purposeful activity that was preparing Jessica for opportunities that she could not yet fully envision. The systematic approach to personal development that she had implemented was building internal resources and external qualifications that would enable her to respond effectively when circumstances provided openings for advancement and recognition. The insurance check that would soon arrive, the professional opportunities that would emerge from her enhanced qualifications and improved confidence, and the personal relationships that would develop based on mutual respect and genuine compatibility were still approaching on a timeline that Jessica could not predict. However, the foundation for receiving and maximizing these opportunities was being established through her commitment to demanding better treatment from herself and others. The transformation that had begun with the painful recognition of Carmen's betrayal was developing into a comprehensive reconstruction of Jessica's approach to life, relationships, and professional development. The woman who had been dismissed as unlikely to marry was becoming someone whose success and fulfillment would be based on her own achievements and standards, rather than external validation or desperate accommodation of others' dysfunction. The telephone call that would fundamentally alter Jessica's trajectory arrived on a Thursday morning in late April, precisely 6 weeks after Carmen had pawned the engagement ring and delivered her cruel assessment of Jessica's romantic prospects. Jessica was seated at her makeshift workspace in the apartment, reviewing her notes from a digital marketing certification course, when her phone displayed an unfamiliar Phoenix area code number that she almost declined to answer, having grown weary of the automated sales calls that frequently interrupted her study sessions. The voice on the other end belonged to Margaret Chen, the Human Resources Director for Phoenix Dynamics, a rapidly growing technology consulting firm that specialized in helping traditional businesses integrate digital marketing strategies with their existing operations. Margaret explained that she had obtained Jessica's contact information through a referral from Dr. Patricia Williams, a professor at Arizona State University, who taught advanced marketing courses and maintained connections with local industry professionals. Jessica remembered Dr. Williams from a professional development seminar she had attended 3 weeks earlier, where the professor had been impressed by Jessica's insightful questions about consumer behavior analytics and social media engagement strategies. During their brief conversation after the seminar, Jessica had mentioned her background in traditional marketing and her current efforts to develop expertise in digital channels, providing Dr. Williams with her contact information for potential future opportunities. The position that Margaret described represented exactly the type of opportunity that Jessica had been preparing herself to pursue through her intensive self-development program. Phoenix Dynamics needed a marketing strategy coordinator who could bridge the gap between traditional marketing approaches and emerging digital platforms, working with clients who possess strong business fundamentals but lack the technical expertise necessary to implement effective online marketing campaigns. The role would require someone with proven marketing experience who could quickly master new technologies and communication platforms, while also possessing the interpersonal skills necessary to educate and guide business owners who might be intimidated by rapid changes in digital marketing landscape. The position offered a starting salary that exceeded Jessica's previous compensation by 15%, along with performance bonuses tied to client satisfaction metrics and revenue generation. Margaret explained that Phoenix Dynamics had been searching for qualified candidates for over 2 months, without finding someone who possessed the right combination of traditional marketing foundation and adaptability to emerging technologies. The company had interviewed several candidates with extensive digital marketing experience, but limited understanding of fundamental business principles, as well as traditional marketers who lacked the technical curiosity necessary to master rapidly evolving digital platforms. The phone interview lasted 45 minutes, during which Jessica demonstrated the comprehensive knowledge she had developed through her systematic study program, while also showcasing the strategic thinking abilities that had characterized her previous professional success. Margaret was particularly impressed by Jessica's understanding of how digital marketing metrics could be integrated with traditional business performance indicators to create comprehensive assessment frameworks for marketing campaign effectiveness. Jessica's ability to explain complex digital marketing concepts in clear, accessible language indicated her potential for succeeding in the client education aspects of the position, while her questions about Phoenix Dynamics, client base, and service delivery methodology demonstrated strategic thinking that extended beyond immediate tactical considerations. The conversation revealed that Jessica possessed exactly the blend of technical competence and business acumen that the company had been seeking. The formal interview process would involve 2 additional meetings, including a presentation where Jessica would be asked to develop a comprehensive digital marketing strategy for a hypothetical client based on a detailed business scenario that Phoenix Dynamics would provide. Margaret scheduled the first in-person interview for the following Tuesday, allowing Jessica nearly a week to prepare materials that would demonstrate her capabilities and understanding of the company's service approach. The opportunity represented validation of Jessica's decision to invest her unemployment period in comprehensive skill development, rather than accepting the first available position that might have provided immediate income but limited professional growth potential. The certifications she had earned, the industry knowledge she had acquired, and the confidence she had developed through her personal development work had positioned her to compete effectively for a role that offered both financial advancement and meaningful career progression. Jessica's preparation for the Phoenix Dynamics interviews became a comprehensive project that engaged all of the strategic thinking and project management skills she had developed throughout her marketing career. She researched the company's history, client base, and competitive positioning, identifying key differentiators that would enable her to tailor her presentation and responses to align with their specific business objectives and corporate culture. The company had been founded 5 years earlier by 2 former executives from major consulting firms who recognized that many successful traditional businesses were struggling to adapt their marketing approaches to digital platforms and social media environments. Phoenix Dynamics had built a reputation for providing practical, results-oriented guidance that helped established companies transition to digital marketing without abandoning the relationship-building and customer service principles that had enabled their initial success. The client case studies that Jessica reviewed revealed that Phoenix Dynamics worked primarily with businesses that generated annual revenues between $5 and $50 million, companies large enough to invest in sophisticated marketing strategies, but small enough to require external expertise for implementing digital transformation initiatives. The typical engagement involved comprehensive assessment of existing marketing activities, development of integrated digital strategies, and ongoing consultation during implementation phases. Jessica's analysis of Phoenix Dynamics' service methodology identified several areas where her background and newly acquired skills could provide immediate value to both the company and its clients. Her experience with traditional marketing campaigns would enable her to understand client perspectives and communication preferences, while her digital marketing certifications would allow her to recommend specific technologies and platforms that aligned with client objectives and budget constraints. The presentation assignment that Margaret had described would require Jessica to demonstrate her ability to synthesize complex business information into actionable marketing recommendations, while also showcasing her communication skills and strategic thinking process. Jessica approached the assignment with the same systematic methodology that had enabled her academic and professional success, developing a framework for analyzing the hypothetical client scenario that could also serve as a template for actual consulting engagements. The week between the initial phone interview and the first in-person meeting became an intensive period of preparation that reinforced Jessica's growing confidence in her professional capabilities and market value. She practiced her presentation multiple times, refining her delivery and anticipating potential questions, while also preparing examples from her previous work experience that demonstrated relevant skills and achievements. The personal development work that Jessica had undertaken during her unemployment period proved invaluable for managing the anxiety and self-doubt that had previously undermined her interview performance. The boundary setting and self-advocacy skills she had been practicing enabled her to approach the opportunity from a position of strength rather than desperation, focusing on mutual fit and value creation rather than simply trying to convince the employer to hire her. Jessica's transformation was evident in how she prepared for the interviews, moving away from the apologetic and modest approach that had characterized her previous job search activities toward a confident presentation of her qualifications and potential contributions. She developed compelling narratives about her professional achievements that highlighted her strategic thinking abilities and results-oriented approach, while also demonstrating her capacity for learning and adapting to new challenges. The apartment that had once felt contaminated by Carmen's presence and dysfunction began to serve as a professional preparation space where Jessica could practice her presentation and refine her materials without distraction or interruption. Carmen's continued absence during Jessica's most intensive preparation periods created an environment that supported focused work and strategic thinking. The contrast between Jessica's current circumstances and the situation she had faced 6 weeks earlier, when Carmen had pawned her engagement ring and declared that she would never marry, provided powerful motivation for succeeding in the Phoenix Dynamics opportunity. The woman who had been dismissed as a failure was preparing to compete for a position that would validate her professional capabilities, while providing financial independence and career advancement potential. Jessica's research into Phoenix Dynamics also revealed opportunities for long-term professional growth that extended beyond the immediate marketing strategy coordinator position. The company had a track record of promoting high-performing employees to senior consulting roles and business development positions, while also providing support for advanced professional education and industry certification programs. The company culture emphasized collaborative problem-solving and continuous learning, values that aligned perfectly with Jessica's approach to professional development, and her interest in building expertise that would remain relevant as marketing technologies and strategies continued to evolve. The opportunity represented not just employment but potential partnership with an organization that could support her long-term career objectives and professional fulfillment. The financial implications of securing the Phoenix Dynamics position would enable Jessica to achieve complete independence from Carmen and the toxic dynamic that had characterized their living arrangement. The salary increase would provide sufficient resources for Jessica to lease her own apartment, while also building savings that could support future investments in professional development and personal goals. More significantly, the position would establish Jessica's credibility as a marketing professional who possessed valuable expertise in the rapidly growing field of digital marketing integration. The experience and connections she would develop at Phoenix Dynamics could serve as a foundation for even greater opportunities, whether within the company or with other organizations that needed similar consulting capabilities. The Tuesday morning of Jessica's first in-person interview arrived with clear skies and moderate temperatures that seemed to reflect the optimistic trajectory of her professional prospects. She selected professional attire that projected confidence and competence while also demonstrating her understanding of business culture and client service expectations. The outfit represented a significant departure from the tentative and apologetic image she had previously projected during job interviews. The Phoenix Dynamics office was located in a modern business complex near the airport, occupying 2 floors of a building that housed several other professional service firms and technology companies. The reception area featured contemporary furniture and displays of client success stories that reinforced the company's reputation for delivering measurable results and maintaining long-term client relationships. Margaret Chen greeted Jessica with genuine warmth and professionalism, immediately creating an atmosphere of mutual respect and collaborative evaluation rather than adversarial interrogation. The initial conversation covered Jessica's background and motivations for pursuing the position, allowing her to demonstrate the strategic thinking and communication skills that had been enhanced through her systematic preparation process. The formal interview included David Rodriguez, Phoenix Dynamics managing partner, whose questions focused on Jessica's ability to translate complex digital marketing concepts into practical recommendations that traditional business owners could understand and implement. Jessica's responses showcased not only her technical knowledge, but also her appreciation for the psychological and cultural factors that influenced client decision-making and implementation success. The presentation portion of the interview provided Jessica with an opportunity to demonstrate the comprehensive analytical and strategic planning capabilities she had developed through her professional experience and recent certification programs. Her recommendations for the hypothetical client scenario reflected sophisticated understanding of digital marketing integration, while also addressing practical considerations related to budget constraints and organizational capacity. David's reaction to Jessica's presentation was immediately positive, with follow-up questions that suggested genuine interest in her strategic thinking process and potential contributions to client engagements. The dialogue that developed during the presentation demonstrated that Jessica could collaborate effectively with senior professionals while maintaining her own perspective and expertise. The interview concluded with Margaret explaining the final steps in the hiring process, including a meeting with 2 current marketing strategy coordinators who would provide Jessica with additional insights into daily responsibilities and client interaction expectations. The timeline for making a hiring decision was approximately 1 week, with the successful candidate expected to begin employment within 2 weeks of receiving an offer. As Jessica drove home from the Phoenix Dynamics office, she experienced a profound sense of alignment between her preparation efforts and the opportunity that had emerged. The systematic skill development, confidence building, and professional positioning work she had undertaken during her unemployment period had created exactly the foundation necessary for succeeding in the role that represented her ideal career advancement opportunity. The transformation from the woman who had been betrayed and dismissed by her sister to the confident professional who had just delivered a compelling interview performance illustrated the power of strategic self-investment and persistent effort to create opportunities for advancement and recognition. The insurance check that would soon validate Jessica's financial judgment and the romantic relationship that would prove Carmen's predictions completely wrong were still approaching, but the professional success was already beginning to materialize through Jessica's disciplined preparation and strategic positioning. The second interview at Phoenix Dynamics took place on a Friday morning that would fundamentally reshape Jessica's understanding of her professional worth and personal capabilities. The meeting had been scheduled for 10 o'clock, providing Jessica with sufficient time to complete her morning preparation routine, while also allowing her to arrive at the office feeling centered and confident, rather than rushed or anxious about potential delays. Jessica's preparation for this critical interview had been comprehensive and strategic, incorporating everything she had learned about effective professional presentation during her intensive self-development period. She had refined her portfolio materials to highlight specific achievements that aligned with Phoenix Dynamics' service methodology while also preparing detailed examples of how her marketing expertise could address common client challenges that the company regularly encountered. The drive to the Phoenix Dynamics office provided Jessica with time for reflection on the remarkable transformation she had undergone during the 2 months since Carmen had stolen her engagement ring and declared that she would never achieve romantic or professional success. The woman who had accepted disrespectful treatment and financial exploitation from her sister had evolved into a marketing professional who possessed both the technical expertise and strategic thinking capabilities that employers actively sought. Margaret Chen welcomed Jessica with the same professional warmth that had characterized their previous interactions, immediately creating an atmosphere of mutual respect and collaborative evaluation. The conversation began with follow-up questions about Jessica's presentation from the earlier interview, allowing her to elaborate on specific strategic recommendations and demonstrate her deeper understanding of digital marketing integration challenges. The discussion revealed that Phoenix Dynamics had been particularly impressed with Jessica's ability to identify potential implementation obstacles and develop practical solutions that addressed both technical requirements and organizational change management considerations. Her recognition that successful digital marketing transformation required attention to cultural factors and employee training needs distinguished her from other candidates who had focused primarily on technical capabilities. Margaret explained that the final decision would be made by David Rodriguez in consultation with the 2 senior marketing strategy coordinators who had been involved in the interview process. Both colleagues had provided positive feedback about Jessica's technical competence and communication abilities, noting that her approach to client education demonstrated the patience and clarity necessary for working with business owners who might be intimidated by digital marketing complexity. The conversation then shifted to practical considerations about employment terms and start dates, indicating that Phoenix Dynamics was prepared to extend an offer pending successful completion of reference checks and background verification procedures. The salary figure that Margaret mentioned exceeded Jessica's expectations, representing a 22% increase over her previous compensation, along with performance bonuses that could provide additional financial advancement based on client satisfaction metrics. The benefits package included comprehensive health insurance, retirement plan contributions, and professional development allowances that would support Jessica's continued education in emerging marketing technologies and industry trends. The company's commitment to employee growth and skill enhancement aligned perfectly with Jessica's recognition that continuous learning would be essential for maintaining relevance in the rapidly evolving digital marketing landscape. Margaret's description of typical work schedules and client interaction patterns indicated that the position would provide Jessica with substantial autonomy and responsibility, while also offering collaborative support from experienced colleagues and senior management. The company culture emphasized results-oriented performance evaluation rather than micromanagement or rigid procedural compliance, creating an environment where Jessica's strategic thinking abilities and problem-solving skills could flourish. The reference check process would require contact information for Jessica's previous supervisors and professional colleagues, who could provide insights into her work performance, client relationship management capabilities, and collaborative teamwork abilities. Jessica provided references from her former advertising agency position, along with contacts from professional associations and networking organizations, where she had demonstrated leadership and expertise. The background verification procedures were standard for professional service firms and would be completed within 3 to 5 business days, allowing Phoenix Dynamics to extend a formal offer by the following Thursday, if all references provided positive feedback about Jessica's qualifications and character. The timeline would enable Jessica to begin employment within 2 weeks, providing sufficient time for completing any necessary paperwork and orientation procedures. As the interview concluded, Margaret expressed Phoenix Dynamics' enthusiasm about the possibility of adding Jessica to their team, while also acknowledging the competitive nature of the marketing consulting industry and the importance of finding candidates who could contribute immediately to client success and company growth. The mutual respect and professional courtesy that characterized the conversation reinforced Jessica's confidence that she had found an organization where her capabilities would be recognized and her contributions valued appropriately. The drive home from Phoenix Dynamics provided Jessica with an opportunity to process the remarkable progress she had achieved through her systematic approach to professional development and personal transformation. The job opportunity represented validation of her decision to invest her unemployment period in comprehensive skill building rather than accepting inferior positions that would have provided immediate income but limited career advancement potential. The financial implications of the Phoenix Dynamics opportunity would enable Jessica to achieve complete independence from Carmen and establish living arrangements that supported her professional objectives and personal well-being. The salary increase would provide resources for securing her own apartment while also building savings that could support future investments in professional development and personal goals that had been deferred during the period of supporting Carmen's irresponsible behavior. Jessica returned to her apartment to find Carmen absent, presumably attending classes or social activities that had become her primary focus since the confrontation about the stolen engagement ring. The temporary solitude provided Jessica with space for reflection and planning, without the distraction or emotional contamination that Carmen's presence typically created in their shared living environment. The contrast between Jessica's current circumstances and the situation she had faced 2 months earlier created powerful motivation for maintaining the personal boundaries and professional standards that had enabled her remarkable transformation. The systematic approach to skill development, confidence building, and strategic positioning had created opportunities that exceeded her initial expectations, while also providing foundation for continued advancement and recognition. Jessica's phone rang at 3:30 that afternoon, displaying Margaret Chen's number and creating immediate anticipation about potential developments in the hiring process. Margaret's voice conveyed genuine excitement as she explained that Phoenix Dynamics had completed their internal discussions and was prepared to extend a formal job offer pending successful reference checks and background verification. The position would officially be titled Senior Marketing Strategy Coordinator, reflecting the company's recognition that Jessica's combination of traditional marketing experience and digital expertise warranted a higher-level designation than initially advertised. The enhanced title would provide Jessica with additional credibility when working with clients, while also positioning her for accelerated advancement within the Phoenix Dynamics organizational structure. The salary offer exceeded the figure that Margaret had mentioned during the morning interview, representing a 28% increase over Jessica's previous compensation, along with performance bonuses that could add 15 to 25% additional earnings based on client satisfaction scores and revenue generation metrics. The compensation package reflected Phoenix Dynamics' competitive approach to attracting and retaining high-quality marketing professionals. Margaret explained that Phoenix Dynamics typically experienced rapid employee advancement for individuals who demonstrated exceptional client relationship management capabilities and strategic thinking skills. The company had a track record of promoting high-performing marketing strategy coordinators to senior consultant positions within 18 to 24 months, with corresponding salary increases and expanded responsibilities for business development and client acquisition activities. The reference check process had already begun with contact attempts to Jessica's former supervisors and professional colleagues. Margaret anticipated completing the verification procedures by Tuesday afternoon, allowing Phoenix Dynamics to provide Jessica with formal offer documentation and employment agreements by Wednesday morning. The accelerated timeline reflected the company's eagerness to bring Jessica aboard and begin leveraging her capabilities for client engagements. Jessica accepted the verbal offer enthusiastically, while maintaining the professional composure that had characterized her interview performance throughout the hiring process. The conversation concluded with Margaret providing additional details about orientation procedures and initial project assignments that would enable Jessica to contribute immediately to client success, while also developing deeper understanding of Phoenix Dynamics' service delivery methodology. The remainder of Friday afternoon and evening became a period of profound reflection and celebration for Jessica, as she processed the remarkable transformation that had occurred through her systematic approach to professional development and personal growth. The job offer represented validation of her capabilities and market value while also providing foundation for continued advancement and achievement. The decision to confront Carmen's betrayal and establish appropriate boundaries had been difficult and emotionally painful, but it had also created space for Jessica to focus on her own goals and priorities without constantly managing her sister's crises and irresponsible behavior. The personal development work that had accompanied her professional skill building had enhanced her confidence and strategic thinking abilities in ways that benefited both her interview performance and her approach to career planning. Jessica began making preliminary plans for securing independent housing that would support her professional responsibilities and personal well-being without the dysfunction and emotional contamination that had characterized her living arrangement with Carmen. The financial resources provided by her new position would enable her to lease a modern apartment in a professional neighborhood while also maintaining savings for emergency expenses and future investments. The geographic location of potential apartments near the Phoenix Dynamics office would reduce commuting time while also positioning Jessica within a business community that could provide networking opportunities and professional development resources. The independence and stability that would accompany her new living arrangement would create optimal conditions for excelling in her new position while also building foundation for continued career advancement. The evening hours provided Jessica with time for updating her professional materials and social media profiles to reflect her new position and enhanced qualifications. The LinkedIn profile modifications showcased her comprehensive marketing expertise while also highlighting her strategic thinking capabilities and client service orientation that had impressed Phoenix Dynamics during the interview process. Jessica also began researching industry trends and emerging technologies that would be relevant to her new responsibilities. Recognizing that her success at Phoenix Dynamics would depend on maintaining current knowledge of digital marketing developments and their practical applications for client engagements. The continuous learning mindset that had enabled her transformation during unemployment would be equally important for excelling in her new professional role. The weekend provided additional time for reflection and preparation, as Jessica awaited confirmation of the reference checks and background verification procedures that would finalize her employment with Phoenix Dynamics. The systematic approach to planning and goal achievement that had characterized her job search would be equally valuable for succeeding in her new position and building foundation for continued advancement. Carmen returned to the apartment Saturday afternoon, displaying the casual indifference to Jessica's activities and achievements that had characterized her behavior since the confrontation about the stolen engagement ring. The contrast between Carmen's continued irresponsibility and Jessica's professional advancement served as powerful validation of Jessica's decision to establish boundaries and prioritize her own goals over accommodating dysfunctional family dynamics. Jessica chose not to share details about her job offer with Carmen, recognizing that her sister's response would likely include attempts to benefit financially from Jessica's success without contributing reciprocal value or demonstrating genuine support for her achievements. The decision to maintain privacy about her professional developments reflected Jessica's growing understanding of appropriate boundaries and strategic information sharing. The insurance check that would soon provide additional financial validation of Jessica's judgment, and the romantic relationship that would prove Carmen's cruel predictions completely wrong, were still approaching on an unknown timeline. However, the professional success that Jessica had achieved through strategic preparation and persistent effort provided immediate evidence that her transformation was creating opportunities for advancement and recognition that Carmen had dismissed as impossible. The Monday morning communication from Margaret Chen confirmed that all reference checks had provided outstanding feedback about Jessica's professional capabilities and character. The former supervisors and professional colleagues had described Jessica as exceptionally competent, reliable, and strategic in her approach to marketing challenges, while also highlighting her collaborative teamwork abilities and client relationship management skills. The background verification procedures had also been completed successfully, allowing Phoenix Dynamics to prepare formal offer documentation and employment agreements that would be ready for Jessica's signature by Wednesday morning. The accelerated processing reflected the company's enthusiasm about bringing Jessica aboard and their confidence that she would contribute immediately to client success and organizational growth. Jessica's transformation from the woman who had been betrayed and dismissed by her sister to the confident professional who had secured an ideal career opportunity demonstrated the power of strategic self-investment and persistent effort to create remarkable advancement opportunities. The foundation for even greater success had been established through Jessica's disciplined approach to skill development and personal growth, preparing her to excel in challenges and opportunities that would continue to validate her worth and capabilities. The formal offer letter from Phoenix Dynamics arrived via email on Wednesday morning at precisely 9:15, marking the official beginning of Jessica's transition from unemployment to a senior marketing position that would fundamentally reshape her financial circumstances and professional trajectory. The comprehensive employment package exceeded even the generous terms that Margaret Chen had outlined during their previous conversations, reflecting the company's recognition that Jessica possessed exactly the combination of strategic thinking capabilities and technical expertise they required for their expanding client base. The Senior Marketing Strategy Coordinator position carried an annual salary of $78,000, representing a 32% increase over Jessica's previous compensation and positioning her firmly within the upper tier of marketing professionals in the Phoenix metropolitan area. The performance bonus structure could provide additional earnings of $12,000 to $20,000 annually based on client satisfaction metrics and revenue generation achievements, creating powerful incentives for exceptional performance, while also rewarding strategic contributions to company growth. The benefits package included comprehensive medical and dental insurance coverage with minimal employee contributions, a retirement savings plan with company matching contributions that would vest immediately, and professional development allowances of $3,000 annually for continuing education programs and industry certifications. The company also provided flexible work arrangements that would enable Jessica to manage client meetings and project deadlines while maintaining optimal work-life balance and personal productivity. Jessica's start date was scheduled for the following Monday, providing 1 week for completing final preparations and establishing the independent living arrangements that would support her new professional responsibilities. The timeline allowed sufficient opportunity for apartment searching and lease negotiations, while also providing space for mental preparation and strategic planning for her initial Phoenix Dynamics projects. The apartment search process became Jessica's first opportunity to apply her enhanced financial resources toward creating a living environment that reflected her professional status and personal priorities, rather than compromising her preferences to accommodate someone else's dysfunction and irresponsibility. The budget parameters that her new salary enabled provided access to modern apartments in professional neighborhoods that offered both convenience and amenities that would support her career objectives. Jessica focused her search on properties within a 15-minute commute of the Phoenix Dynamics office, recognizing that proximity to her workplace would provide additional time for professional development activities, while also reducing transportation costs and stress associated with lengthy daily travel. The geographic area included several upscale apartment complexes that catered to young professionals and featured amenities such as fitness centers, business facilities, and social spaces that could support both personal wellness and professional networking opportunities. The apartment that ultimately captured Jessica's interest was located in a contemporary complex that had been constructed within the past 3 years, featuring modern appliances, energy-efficient systems, and design elements that created an atmosphere of sophistication and professional success. The one-bedroom unit offered 850 square feet of living space with floor-to-ceiling windows, an open-concept kitchen and dining area, and a designated workspace that would accommodate her home office requirements. The monthly rental cost of $1,400 represented approximately 22% of Jessica's gross income, well within the recommended housing expense guidelines, while also providing substantial improvement in living quality compared to her previous arrangement with Carmen. The lease terms included utilities allowances and access to community amenities that would enhance her daily life, while also providing venues for professional entertaining and client relationship building when appropriate. The apartment complex featured a business center with conference rooms and high-speed internet connectivity that residents could reserve for professional meetings, along with a fitness facility that would support Jessica's commitment to maintaining physical wellness as foundation for sustained professional performance. The social areas included a rooftop terrace with panoramic city views and outdoor cooking facilities that could accommodate networking events and relationship-building activities. Jessica's decision to secure independent housing represented a fundamental shift in her approach to personal and financial management, moving away from accommodation and compromise toward strategic choices that supported her professional objectives and personal fulfillment. The apartment lease signing occurred on Friday afternoon, providing weekend time for moving preparations and initial setup of her new living environment. The moving process revealed the extent to which Jessica's possessions had been minimized during her period of unemployment and accommodation to Carmen's presence in their shared apartment. The systematic approach to expense management that had characterized her job search period had resulted in careful evaluation of material needs and elimination of unnecessary items, creating a streamlined inventory of belongings that could be efficiently relocated to her new residence. The furniture and household items that Jessica had accumulated during her years of independent living prior to Carmen's arrival provided sufficient foundation for establishing a comfortable and professional living environment in her new apartment. The items that had been damaged or compromised during Carmen's residency would be replaced gradually, as Jessica's enhanced income provided resources for upgrading her living standards and creating spaces that reflected her professional success. Carmen's reaction to Jessica's announcement about the new job and independent living arrangements revealed the depth of her entitlement and expectation that Jessica would continue to provide financial support regardless of her own achievements or circumstances. The conversation occurred on Saturday morning as Jessica was organizing her belongings for the moving process, with Carmen expressing surprise and indignation that Jessica would pursue housing arrangements that did not accommodate continued cohabitation. Carmen's initial response focused on practical concerns about her ability to maintain their current apartment without Jessica's financial contributions, followed by attempts to guilt Jessica into reconsidering her decision based on family loyalty obligations and sisterly responsibilities. The manipulation tactics that had previously succeeded in convincing Jessica to accommodate Carmen's needs proved ineffective against Jessica's newfound clarity about appropriate boundaries and reciprocal relationships. The conversation escalated when Carmen demanded specific financial assistance to help her secure alternative housing arrangements, expecting Jessica to provide security deposits and moving expenses, while also covering her outstanding obligations for their current lease agreement. Carmen's assumption that Jessica's professional success would automatically translate into continued financial support revealed her fundamental misunderstanding of the transformation that had occurred in Jessica's priorities and self-respect. Jessica's response to Carmen's demands reflected the boundary-setting skills and self-advocacy capabilities that she had developed through her intensive personal development program during the unemployment period. She explained calmly that her financial resources would be directed toward supporting her own goals and responsibilities, rather than enabling continued irresponsible behavior from family members who had demonstrated contempt for her generosity and success. The discussion about the stolen engagement ring resurfaced during Carmen's attempts to minimize the significance of Jessica's boundary-setting decisions, with Carmen continuing to justify her theft as a reasonable response to financial pressures, while dismissing the emotional and practical impact on Jessica. Carmen's inability to acknowledge wrongdoing or demonstrate genuine remorse confirmed Jessica's assessment that their relationship dynamic had been fundamentally unhealthy and unsustainable. Carmen's final attempt to undermine Jessica's confidence involved renewed predictions about her romantic prospects and professional sustainability, suggesting that Jessica's current success would prove temporary and that she would eventually require family support to manage future challenges and setbacks. The cruelty and vindictiveness that characterized Carmen's response to Jessica's achievements provided additional validation of Jessica's decision to establish independence and appropriate boundaries. The weekend moving process provided Jessica with physical and symbolic separation from the toxic environment that had characterized her living arrangement with Carmen, while also creating space for focusing on preparation for her new professional responsibilities at Phoenix Dynamics. The apartment setup activities allowed Jessica to envision and create living spaces that supported her goals and reflected her values, rather than constantly accommodating someone else's dysfunction. Sunday evening in her new apartment provided Jessica with the first completely peaceful and supportive environment she had experienced in over 18 months, free from the emotional contamination and financial stress that had accompanied Carmen's presence in her daily life. The silence and order of her independent living space created optimal conditions for reflection and strategic planning as she prepared to begin her new career phase. The professional wardrobe that Jessica assembled for her Phoenix Dynamics position reflected her enhanced financial resources and her understanding of client service expectations in the consulting industry. The clothing investments represented strategic positioning for success rather than mere personal indulgence, recognizing that professional appearance would influence client perceptions and colleague relationships in meaningful ways. The business attire that Jessica selected combined classic professional elements with contemporary styling that conveyed competence and strategic thinking capabilities, while also reflecting her personal aesthetic preferences. The wardrobe planning process incorporated insights from her research about Phoenix Dynamics, corporate culture, and client base, ensuring that her appearance would support rather than distract from her professional contributions. Jessica's preparation for her first day at Phoenix Dynamics included comprehensive review of the company's recent client case studies and strategic positioning materials, enabling her to contribute immediately to discussions about marketing challenges and solution development approaches. The background research revealed opportunities for Jessica to apply her unique combination of traditional marketing expertise and digital platform knowledge to specific client needs that aligned with her capabilities. The evening before her Phoenix Dynamics start date, Jessica reflected on the remarkable transformation that had occurred during the 3 months since Carmen had stolen her engagement ring and declared that she would never achieve professional or romantic success. The woman who had accepted disrespectful treatment and financial exploitation had evolved into a marketing professional who possessed both the technical expertise and strategic thinking capabilities that employers actively sought. The systematic approach to skill development and personal growth that had characterized Jessica's response to unemployment and family betrayal had created opportunities that exceeded her initial expectations, while also providing foundation for continued advancement and recognition. The professional success represented validation of her decision to prioritize her own goals and establish boundaries that protected her well-being and resources. The insurance check that would soon provide additional financial validation and the romantic relationship that would prove Carmen's predictions completely wrong were still approaching on an unknown timeline. However, the career advancement that Jessica had achieved through strategic preparation and persistent effort provided immediate evidence that her transformation was creating opportunities for success that Carmen had dismissed as impossible. Jessica's first day at Phoenix Dynamics began with a comprehensive orientation program that introduced her to company policies, client service standards, and project management systems, while also providing opportunities to meet colleagues and understand organizational culture. The orientation process confirmed that Phoenix Dynamics maintained the collaborative and results-oriented environment that had attracted Jessica during the interview process. Margaret Chen provided Jessica with detailed information about her initial client assignments, including 2 established accounts that required ongoing marketing strategy support and 1 new client engagement that would test her ability to develop comprehensive digital marketing integration plans. The project portfolio offered immediate opportunities for Jessica to demonstrate her capabilities while also providing exposure to different industries and marketing challenges. The established client accounts involved a regional restaurant chain that needed social media marketing optimization and an automotive services company that required website redesign and search engine optimization improvements. Both clients had been working with Phoenix Dynamics for over 6 months and possessed clear expectations about service delivery standards and communication protocols. The new client engagement represented a more complex challenge involving a family-owned manufacturing business that generated $30 million in annual revenue, but had minimal digital marketing presence despite serving customers throughout the southwestern United States. The client assessment and strategy development process would require Jessica to apply comprehensive analytical skills while also demonstrating her ability to educate business owners about digital marketing opportunities and implementation requirements. Jessica's colleagues in the marketing strategy coordinator role provided insights into client relationship management techniques and project delivery approaches that had proven successful with Phoenix Dynamics' diverse client base. The collaborative information sharing created immediate support for Jessica's transition, while also establishing professional relationships that would facilitate ongoing knowledge exchange and teamwork. The first week at Phoenix Dynamics confirmed that Jessica's preparation and skill development during her unemployment period had positioned her exceptionally well for succeeding in the consulting environment, while also identifying areas where continued learning and professional development would enhance her effectiveness and advancement potential. The foundation for remarkable career growth had been established through Jessica's strategic approach to transformation and her commitment to excellence in all aspects of her professional performance. The first month at Phoenix Dynamics established Jessica as an exceptional contributor, whose strategic thinking capabilities and client relationship management skills exceeded the expectations that had been established during her interview process. Her systematic approach to understanding client business objectives and translating complex digital marketing concepts into actionable implementation strategies generated consistently positive feedback from both colleagues and the business owners who received her consulting services. Jessica's initial client assignments provided comprehensive opportunities to demonstrate the marketing expertise she had developed through her intensive self-education program, while also revealing her natural ability to identify optimization opportunities that other consultants had overlooked. The regional restaurant chain engagement resulted in a 43% increase in social media engagement within 3 weeks of implementing Jessica's content strategy recommendations. while the automotive services client experienced a 67% improvement in website conversion rates following her search engine optimization modifications. The manufacturing company assessment that represented Jessica's first independent client engagement showcased her ability to conduct thorough business analysis and develop comprehensive digital marketing strategies that addressed both immediate tactical needs and long-term strategic positioning objectives. The family-owned business had been generating substantial revenue through traditional sales channels, but possessed minimal online presence despite serving customers across multiple southwestern states. Jessica's approach to the manufacturing client assessment demonstrated her understanding that successful digital marketing integration required careful consideration of existing business processes, organizational capabilities, and cultural factors that could influence implementation success. She conducted extensive interviews with key stakeholders to understand their customer acquisition methods, competitive positioning strategies, and internal resources available for managing expanded marketing activities. The comprehensive strategy document that Jessica developed for the manufacturing client exceeded 100 pages of detailed analysis and recommendations, incorporating market research, competitive assessment, customer persona development, and phased implementation timelines that would enable gradual transition to enhanced digital marketing capabilities. The strategic framework addressed website redesign requirements, search engine optimization priorities, social media platform selection, and content marketing approaches that aligned with the company's brand positioning and customer communication preferences. David Rodriguez reviewed Jessica's manufacturing client strategy document with particular attention to her analytical methodology and strategic reasoning process, recognizing that her approach demonstrated sophisticated understanding of both marketing principles and business operations that distinguished her work from typical consulting deliverables. The comprehensive nature of Jessica's recommendations and her ability to anticipate implementation challenges reflected strategic thinking capabilities that positioned her for accelerated advancement within Phoenix Dynamics. The client presentation of Jessica's digital marketing strategy occurred during the second week of her second month at Phoenix Dynamics, providing her with an opportunity to demonstrate her communication and client education skills in a high-stakes environment where her recommendations would determine the scope and duration of Phoenix Dynamics' ongoing engagement with the manufacturing company. Jessica's presentation approach reflected her understanding that successful consulting required not only technical expertise, but also the ability to build confidence and trust among decision-makers who might be intimidated by digital marketing complexity or skeptical about the return on investment from enhanced online marketing activities. She structured her presentation to address specific concerns that had emerged during her stakeholder interviews, while also highlighting opportunities for competitive advantage and revenue growth that could result from strategic digital marketing implementation. The manufacturing company executives responded to Jessica's presentation with enthusiasm that exceeded their initial expectations about digital marketing potential for their traditional business model. The company president authorized implementation of Jessica's complete strategic framework, including website redesign, search engine optimization, social media marketing, and content development activities that would represent Phoenix Dynamics' largest single client engagement during the current fiscal year. The success of Jessica's manufacturing client presentation established her reputation within Phoenix Dynamics as a consultant who possessed exceptional analytical capabilities combined with client relationship management skills that could generate significant revenue growth and long-term partnership opportunities. Margaret Chen and David Rodriguez began discussing Jessica's potential for advancement to senior consulting roles that would provide increased responsibility and compensation, while also positioning her for leadership responsibilities within the company. The expanded client engagement that resulted from Jessica's strategic recommendations created opportunities for her to manage larger project teams, while also developing expertise in areas such as project management, vendor coordination, and client service delivery that would enhance her value to Phoenix Dynamics and her marketability within the broader consulting industry. The manufacturing client implementation would require coordination of website developers, content creators, graphic designers, and social media specialists, whose work would need to be synchronized to achieve optimal results within established timelines and budget parameters. Jessica's approach to project management reflected the same systematic methodology that had characterized her personal transformation and professional development activities during her unemployment period. She developed comprehensive project tracking systems that monitored progress against established milestones, while also providing regular communication updates to both Phoenix Dynamics leadership and manufacturing client stakeholders about implementation status and emerging opportunities for optimization. The coordination of multiple vendors and service providers required Jessica to develop negotiation skills and relationship management capabilities that extended beyond her traditional marketing expertise, creating additional professional development opportunities that would enhance her qualifications for senior consulting positions and business development roles. The vendor management experience provided practical insights into cost control strategies and quality assurance procedures that would prove valuable throughout her career advancement trajectory. The manufacturing client implementation process also revealed Jessica's ability to adapt her strategic recommendations based on real-world implementation challenges and emerging market opportunities that had not been fully anticipated during the initial assessment phase. Her flexibility and problem-solving capabilities enabled successful navigation of technical obstacles and timeline modifications while maintaining client confidence and project momentum towards successful completion. The results of Jessica's manufacturing client engagement exceeded all performance projections that had been established during the strategic planning phase, generating measurable improvements in website traffic, lead generation, and customer acquisition that validated her analytical assumptions and strategic recommendations. The manufacturing company's online revenue increased by 137% during the first quarter of implementation, while their overall customer inquiries grew by 89%. Through enhanced digital marketing visibility. The exceptional performance outcomes from Jessica's client engagements created opportunities for her to present case studies and strategic insights at Phoenix Dynamics quarterly client conferences, where she could demonstrate her expertise to potential new clients while also establishing her reputation as a thought leader within the digital marketing consulting industry. The speaking opportunities provided additional professional development experiences that enhanced her communication capabilities and industry credibility. Jessica's presentation at the Phoenix Dynamics Fall Client Conference addressed the strategic framework she had developed for integrating traditional business operations with digital marketing platforms, focusing on practical implementation strategies that could help established companies transition to enhanced online marketing capabilities without disrupting their existing customer relationships or operational procedures. The presentation received overwhelmingly positive feedback from conference attendees and generated multiple inquiries about consulting services for businesses facing similar digital transformation challenges. The success of Jessica's conference presentation established her as a recognized expert in digital marketing integration for traditional businesses, creating opportunities for her to contribute to industry publications and participate in professional association activities that would further enhance her reputation and career advancement prospects. The thought leadership activities provided additional avenues for professional growth while also generating marketing value for Phoenix Dynamics through enhanced industry visibility and credibility. The financial rewards that accompanied Jessica's exceptional performance included quarterly bonuses that exceeded the maximum projections from her original employment agreement, providing additional resources for continued professional development investments and enhanced personal lifestyle choices. The bonus payments validated her strategic approach to career advancement, while also creating financial foundation for pursuing advanced certifications and educational opportunities that would support continued professional growth. Jessica's approach to managing her enhanced financial resources reflected the same strategic thinking that had characterized her professional development activities, with careful budgeting for continued education expenses, emergency savings accumulation, and lifestyle improvements that supported her professional objectives, rather than simply increasing personal consumption. The systematic financial planning provided security and flexibility that enabled her to pursue opportunities for advancement without concern about immediate income requirements. The apartment that Jessica had selected during her transition from living with Carmen continued to provide an optimal environment for both professional productivity and personal wellness, with the home office space accommodating client calls and project development activities, while the fitness facilities and social areas supported networking opportunities and stress management through regular exercise and community engagement. The professional wardrobe investments that Jessica had made during her initial Phoenix Dynamics employment period proved strategically valuable as her client-facing responsibilities expanded and her speaking opportunities increased, with high-quality business attire supporting her credibility during presentations and client meetings. while also reflecting her professional success and attention to detail that clients and colleagues associated with exceptional service quality. The transformation in Jessica's daily routine from the unemployment period to her current professional success created opportunities for expanded social connections and romantic relationship possibilities that had been limited during her previous circumstances of financial stress and accommodation to Carmen's dysfunction. The confidence and financial stability that accompanied her professional advancement enabled her to pursue social activities and relationship opportunities from a position of strength rather than desperation or need for external validation. The professional networking opportunities that emerged through Jessica's Phoenix Dynamics colleagues and client connections provided access to social circles that included other accomplished professionals whose interests and values aligned with her own priorities and lifestyle preferences. The networking activities created natural opportunities for developing both professional relationships and potential romantic connections with individuals who possessed similar education levels, career ambitions, and personal integrity standards. Jessica's evening and weekend schedule began to include professional association meetings, industry conferences, and social events that connected her with marketing professionals, business executives, and entrepreneurs whose company provided intellectual stimulation and mutual professional support that had been absent during her previous living arrangement with Carmen. The social connections reinforced her decision to prioritize relationships that were characterized by reciprocity and mutual respect, rather than accommodation and enabling of irresponsible behavior. The contrast between Jessica's current professional and social circumstances and the situation she had faced 6 months earlier, when Carmen had stolen her engagement ring and declared that she would never achieve romantic or professional success, provided daily motivation for maintaining the boundaries and standards that had enabled her remarkable transformation. The systematic approach to personal development and professional advancement continued to generate opportunities that exceeded her initial expectations while also providing foundation for even greater achievements. The insurance check that would soon provide additional financial validation and the romantic relationship that would prove Carmen's predictions completely wrong were still approaching on an unknown timeline. However, the consistent professional excellence and expanding recognition that Jessica had achieved through strategic preparation and disciplined performance provided comprehensive evidence that her transformation was creating sustained opportunities for advancement and fulfillment that Carmen had dismissed as impossible. The foundation for Jessica's continued success had been established through her commitment to excellence in all aspects of her professional performance, her strategic approach to relationship building and opportunity recognition, and her disciplined financial management that provided resources for continued growth and development. The woman who had been betrayed and dismissed was becoming a recognized expert whose capabilities and achievements commanded respect and created opportunities for even greater success and personal fulfillment. The opportunity that would establish Jessica as a strategic innovator within Phoenix Dynamics emerged during her 4th month with the company, when David Rodriguez approached her with a complex challenge that had been troubling the firm's senior leadership for several months. A consortium of independent healthcare practices throughout Arizona had requested consulting services to develop a unified digital marketing approach that could compete effectively against large hospital systems while maintaining the personalized service characteristics that distinguished independent medical practices. The healthcare consortium represented Phoenix Dynamics' most ambitious potential engagement, involving 12 medical practices that generated combined annual revenues exceeding $40 million, but had struggled to coordinate their individual marketing efforts into a cohesive strategy that could achieve economies of scale while preserving each practice's unique identity and patient relationship approaches. Previous consulting attempts had failed because other firms had either proposed generic solutions that ignored the distinct characteristics of independent medical practice management, or had recommended overly complex systems that exceeded the technical capabilities of typical healthcare administrative staff. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.